Hey guys, Duke Delaet for the Intimacy Liberation Army. Welcome back to the channel. And today we're talking about how to identify your own personal boundaries. Identifying your personal boundaries is an important step in taking care of yourself, maintaining healthy relationships, and in general, being able to practice the type of assertiveness that creates confidence, creates self-integrity, and basically increases your well-being overall. And so here's some tips for the day to help identify your own boundaries. Get out your journal because you'll be able to kind of follow along, write the questions down, and then when you have some time to reflect after the video, then go ahead and fill out the major details. So first thing is to reflect on your values. Your values are the things that are most important to you. They're what drive your decisions. They're what drive your mental clarity to take action in particular directions. Like that's your values are what keep you moving forward. So there's actually a book that's super good. It's called The Values Factor, and it's by a guy named Dr. John Demartini, Dimartini. And it's a very heady book. It's very long. It's very super detailed, but it really gets into like what drives you as a human being. And that's where I learned a lot of this stuff. I went to one of his seminars in Santa Monica. So anyway, go reflect on your values. Figure out what you hold to be true. Like, this is what I will put up with. This is what I won't put up with. It's different than standards, because standards are kind of close to like real world application. Values are more like belief systems you hold about the world. So if you identify your values, it can really help you understand what kind of boundaries you want to set, right? Like if your value is that people should always communicate through their problems rather than try to manipulate each other through stonewalling or threats or guilt tripping or whatever. If this is one of your values, then you can extrapolate your boundaries from this by understanding the whys behind your values. It's like, why is communication better than manipulation? Why is that a thing? And when you come up with experiences in your past and the things that you've been modeled and the why you think it works better this way, and you really galvanize that stuff, you keep it kind of close to your heart, because you understand the functional reason why you believe this way, because not everybody believes this way. Some people think it's more important to keep people on their toes or be a mystery to everybody, or that kind of stuff. They think it's more important than to be honest, than to be real, than to have some sort of authenticity, and they don't really have problems like crossing their integrity for that. Like, if that's you, then that's fine, but know why your value is. You know, if you're more dark side and you're willing to go out and be a little skeezy and manipulate and whatever, you don't feel bad about it, then that's fine. Then you know that, and you're able to communicate that to people, and you can still be authentic in your choice to be underhanded. Like, you can, like, I'm not making a moral judgment about where you're at, but know where you're at so that you can set your boundaries appropriately. If you like to keep a distance from people, and they're like, oh yeah, where do you live? I'm like, yeah, somewhere in the city. And they're like, yeah, where specifically? I'm like, yeah, I don't really share my shit with people, because I like to keep a private profile. And they go, oh, okay, I guess I respect that. And then they keep carrying on, and then they don't have like weird expectations, because you properly communicated your boundaries that was directly attached to your values, right? So reflect on your values. Go into your journal and figure out, okay, what do you believe? What do you believe about the world? What do you believe about relationships? What do you believe about romance? What do you believe about attraction? What do you believe about how a date should go? What do you believe about who pays? What do you believe about power games? What do you believe about those kind of things? Like, go really deep into, like, a lot of my clients, they really like drama. Like, they say that they don't, but they really like to get into relationships because that have a lot of elements of things that they can fix, because it makes them feel good as men to fix problems. And so they go into relationships where a woman tests them on a regular basis, and then they enjoy jumping those hurdles as long as the hurdles aren't too big. They get into a state of flow that way. And as long as you know that about yourself, then you don't got to set weird arbitrary boundaries with people that aren't necessarily attached to who you are as a human. Um, yeah, so pay attention to, I mean, reflect on your values and do some writing exercises and try to figure out, okay, why do I believe the way that I believe? And it'll really help you in setting up your boundaries. Second thing is to pay attention to your feelings. Your feelings can be a good indicator of what your boundaries are. Like if somebody makes you feel uncomfortable or angry or upset or whatever, it's likely it's crossing some sort of belief system, some sort of boundary for you. So watch yourself in a social situation. Like if you go out and you meet up with somebody, like they will say something or bring something up that you don't necessarily agree with. So go into your mind and think, okay, well, why don't I agree with this? Why does this make me feel uncomfortable? Why does this make me feel angry? Why do I feel awkward in the situation? Is it because of what they said, or was it because of the intent that I think that they're intending? Is it, and if that's the case, then why don't I like that intent from people, and how do I want to mitigate that? That's a very clear understanding of, like, once you figure out somebody does something that makes you uncomfortable, then you can backwards engineer it to figure out how to tell that person that they shouldn't do that anymore and set boundaries in that place. A lot of times enforcing boundaries is really just choosing not to engage or opting out. It's not necessarily like a power game that tries to manipulate other people into doing things one way or another. But if you're going to continue to do things like that, I'm just not going to be around. Like it's a really graceful way of setting boundaries in that place, right? I had a guy, he was, every time I showed up, he was drunk all the time, right? And I'd show up to the bar, and he would be like, "What's up, you fucking piece of shit?" Like, and he would just like, it was kind of like banter, but it was really cutting, and I don't know why he does it, right? I never banter back in that way, and I don't like it when he does that, and he always like makes the social situations awkward when he comes into them, and it makes it weird. And I'm like, last time he did it, I walked in and I was like, don't do that anymore. I'm done with that. Like, every time I walk in here, you are literally the meanest ever that you can be to me, and I'm never mean to you. Like, there's no reason for you to have any angst or whatever. So whatever you're doing here, it doesn't fucking jive well with me. So like, don't do that. And he got all mad. He was like, I'm just fucking around. I'm like, yeah, just don't do it anymore. Like, I don't like that. I like you just fine, but I don't like that. And then he stopped. And whenever he sees me, he's like, hey, what's up, man? Good to see you. And I set a boundary that allowed him to modify his behavior. Now, had he not modified his behavior, I would have said, well, okay, well, then I'm not going to engage with you if you're going to be a dick like this. Like, I don't want to do that anymore. And then I would ignore him. And then he would either change his behavior or not engage with me, and that's fine with me. I can opt out of that situation. So pay attention to your feelings, figure out what you like and you don't like, and then figure out kind of why, like what the core reason is. Because sometimes it's trauma. Sometimes like I had a long time for my girlfriend. She would flip out and have a little bit of anxiety, and then the way that she operated, it reminded me a lot of my childhood. And my mom had similar anxiety. It always turned out really, really, really badly. So I was always kind of in the people pleaser mode, trying to be like, okay, well, if she shows this type of thing, I'm gonna go do whatever it takes to make it stop, so it doesn't like devolve into some weird fucking depressive weirdness that I have to fucking deal with and feel unsafe. And but my girlfriend doesn't act like that. Like, she just has anxiety, flips out for a little bit, and then calms herself the fuck down and gets on with life. And so I had to realize that I could set boundaries, like, you can't act that way around me, or I could fix a thing in me that was reacting weird to it. And the self-awareness, the knowing the knowing why you react that way, why you feel uncomfortable, why you feel awkward, why you feel offended by whatever's happening. If you know why, and then you can realize that you're the problem, that you don't like the feeling of anxiety because you feel out of control. So you can go and fix that, and like, my life's my life, your life's your life. I'm going to let you do whatever you do. When you cross over and you start abusing me or whatever, then we'll have issues and I'll set boundaries. But I need to tell you what to do just to make me feel more comfortable if I can deal with it on my own. So yeah, figure out your feelings and figure out why, and then you will have a much better understanding of how to communicate to other people what the lines are and make it clear for them so that they can agree to honor you or not. Third thing, set limits on your time, and also your energy, your social force or your life force. Some of us are extroverts. I'm an extrovert, so I actually get more energy by going out and talking to lots of people, to being in large groups, to being in large events with lots of people to engage with. Like I get fueled up, I fire. It's awesome because of that. But an introvert, like from a Myers-Briggs perspective, is going to kind of drain energy when they go out and they meet people. Like as far as skill sets of ability to meet and communicate with people, like you can be an introvert or extrovert, it's fine. But it's really more about whether you need to recharge after you go out, or going out recharges you. Like that's the introvert extrovert difference. So if you are an introvert and you know that you have a certain level of social interaction in your tank before you need to take care of yourself and recharge, then set limits on that. Be like, all right, I'm only gonna be here for half an hour. I'm not gonna get guilt tripped or whatever into staying because I need to work on my self-care. I need to get some sleep. I gotta work tomorrow, whatever. And you'd be able to set those boundaries. Be like, look, I want to hang out with you. I want to make you feel important, but I also am not going to drink with you and get into some crazy, weird, wild adventure because that's just not how I want to run my life. And if you set those boundaries early, then it's you can protect your own time, you can protect your own energy, you can protect your own investment into things without offending other people. You can just tell them what they get. And when they agree to that, then you give it to them, and then you have a pretty decent trust and rapport built there. And then you go do what you said you were going to do, and go home. If people are always trying to get you into stuff, I got a girlfriend. She's got a bunch of girlfriends, and they're always doing some shit. Like there's baby showers and weddings and weird cousins' birthdays and random birthdays and fucking trips to Cancun and all this other shit. And like, if she said yes to every commitment that she ever did, I mean, I'm similar too. Like, if I said yes to everybody who wanted me to go do something, I would literally have no time for myself. I'd be like entertaining all these other people. And there are a lot of things I don't give a fuck about doing. Like, I don't drink, so like I drink on my birthday, and like that's it. So when people want to go out and just like do a bar crawl and have just drunk and fun, I evaluate in my brain like how fun those people actually are once they get hammered, and then I leave before that happens because I don't have any intention in being a part of that kind of revelry. And so I set limits on it. I'm like, yeah, I don't really drink, so I'm gonna go eat with you guys, and then move it to the next place, and maybe talk to some girls or whatever. Then I'm bouncing, and they're like, okay, cool. Well, it'll be nice to have you. Cool, yeah. So then I go do that. If you set the expectations on what you're willing to do and willing to put up with, you set this stuff in advance, then people aren't disappointed in what for you not doing exactly what they would like to be doing, right? So as long as you communicate the boundaries, you're generally pretty fine. People will respect you when you set up boundaries like that because they appreciate that you're making time for them because you have something better to do, right? Or you have a better purpose than just distracting yourself away. So yeah, the next one is to make sure you communicate your boundaries to others. I've always held that if you have a boundary but then you don't communicate to somebody and they don't agree with it, then you can't really hold them accountable for crossing it, right? If they didn't know it was there, then crossing that boundary is not really a sin in your world. It's not like really a offense or affront to you in your world. If you didn't say it and then they didn't agree to it, then you can't expect them to adhere to it. There's a lot of my clients and a lot of my friends actually, they'll go out and they say, oh, that's just the way it is. You know, people should respect this. And I'm like, well, why? Like, not everybody thinks like you do. So like, how are they supposed to know that you have this thing bothers you? Like, you didn't tell them. I'm like, yeah, well, they should know, you know. Like a lot of the couples stuff that I do, like the girls will be like, oh yeah, but I want them to be able to, you know, intuit my feelings and you know, do what I want him to do. I'm like, well, did you tell him what you wanted? And then they go, oh no, he should just know. I'm like, well, that's fucking stupid. Like, if you didn't lay out the plan for to how to get your needs met, he's not going to go meet your needs like magically and read your mind. Like that's may happen, right? Especially in a long relationship where you really know a person, you can kind of intuit that stuff. But especially in early relationships, like that shit is a fluke, and you're not gonna have any better time by holding them to a standard that they didn't even know was a standard. So it's better to communicate those boundaries and then also ask for agreement. Be like, does that sound cool to you? Does that sound okay for you? Like, or do you have any issues with that? And they're like, no, I'll adhere to your boundary. And then, okay, cool. And then when they cross it, you can be like, look, you agreed not to do this because we had this conversation. I explained this. Why are you crossing this? Did you forget, or is this malicious? Like, what is this? And then they go, oh no, I didn't mean, I forgot, blah blah blah. Cool, that's fine. But if they're like, yeah, I just didn't really respect it because that's not how I think, or you don't really deserve that, or whatever, then you know that you need to opt out of that situation in order to maintain your assertiveness, maintain your boundaries in that place. Once you've identified them, it's really easy to communicate, and then if you communicate it, then it's really easy to get people to agree to it. And then you're not playing weird power games going, oh, well, he should know better, and I'm just going to sit and wait to see if he figures it out. Like, all you're doing is like dragging the stress out, driving a wedge between you and the rapport with the other person, and then not able to have happiness and resolution and joy because of those things aren't in the way. There's always going to be this little obstacle, a little bit of resentment between you and that other person, all because they didn't know they were offending you, or they don't know, they can feel that you're offended, right? But they don't know why they're offending you because you never communicated it in the first place. And so communicate those things once you figure them out. Focus on your values, focus on your feelings, trying to figure out why, set boundaries around your time, set boundaries around your energy, and then communicate that well with everybody else around you. And you're going to get, like, if you come from like a codependent people pleaser place, you're going to get issues that are like, oh, I don't want to express my boundaries because I don't want to get rejected for having them. But the problem is that if anybody says like, oh, you are not good enough because you think this way, they challenge that with you, it gives you a chance to assert yourself. But it's way worse than the pain. They're like, yeah, well, I think you're dumb. Okay, cool. So you get rejected for having boundaries. Sweet. But it's way worse. The pain of that is way less than the pain of them constantly stepping on your boundaries and making you feel like less. Because if people are constantly crossing you, making you feel uncomfortable, making you feel whatever, then you move into this more like safety mode where you're trying to like regulate and maintain and keep your face in a place where you're getting taken advantage of or getting walked on or betrayed or whatever. And the more you do that, the less self-worth, self-esteem, self-concept that you have to play with, and then you're not as effective in the scene anyway. So like it's worse to let them walk over you all the time, because then you got to fight your way out of the hole rather than have them reject you for not allowing them to walk over you. Know your worth, queen, and all that. So that's that. Remember, another thing is, like, it's not a point here, but like the boundaries are malleable. Like, they change over time. Like, if you get into a certain space where you have the resources you wanted and your kind of cup is running over, and then you don't mind putting up with some bullshit and help rerouting people into the right places in your space, right? You don't have to worry about things when you kind of feel overabundant. But as your energy gets lower and your resources get lower, you might have to set harder boundaries against people. So it's like, look, I need to protect this part of me because I don't have much left, right? Like I'm fucking exhausted. I'm real tired. I don't like that. Like, just, can you calm that down, at least for today, please? And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, my bad. I didn't know it bothered you. Well, now you know, so please, And then you can be joyous and whatever and figure out a way to move on with the rest of your life. And then the next day you can be like, I'm not tired anymore, so that's fine. And you can communicate that to them too. So feel free to change them up at any point, because they're your boundaries. It's your values. It's your feelings. And as you grow in self-development and as you grow in social skills or whatever, you may have a bunch of things that no longer matter to you, right? And you're not setting weird rules that make no difference anymore because you're kind of past that. You've gotten over that trauma or let go of whatever was bothering you. I got a guy. He goes out and he'll meet a girl, and then she'll give him his Instagram, right? And then the Instagram comes. He goes to text her 2 days later, and then he sends a message, and then she doesn't respond, right? And then next time he goes out to the bar, this happened a number of times with him, and he goes out to the bar, and the girl's like, "Oh, hey, it's you. Good to see you, whatever." And he was like giving her the cold shoulder, and he does it to a bunch of different girls, and like not really interested in who they were. And I asked him like, "Okay, so she's giving you a bunch of attention. Why aren't you rewarding her for the attention that she's giving you?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, well, I figure if she doesn't want to talk to me outside of the bar, then I don't really want to talk to her inside the bar, right?" And I was like, "Okay, well, did you tell her that it bothered you that you tried to set something up on Instagram and then she didn't text you back?" And then he's like, "No, like, if she doesn't think I'm important enough outside, then I don't see why I should give her any attention in here, right?" This is kind of a big ego flex. Like it's like, okay, yeah, you're playing power games, sweet. Does that work for you, buddy? Like, maybe. Maybe it keeps you out of drama and bullshit, and feel free to keep doing it. But like, I would rather be like, it's that girl who doesn't text back. Why did you not think on the Instagram? Because I got it last time so we could set up something, and then I tried to set up something, and then you said no. So I don't understand what's going on here. Did you want to hang out or you don't want to hang out? If you don't want to hang out, that's chill. And that generally kind of dissipates that thing and lets her know what behavior you'll accept and what you won't, without having to have some weird animosity or resentment. That's really what you're trying to avoid here. So yeah, that's how to figure out your own boundaries, and then we'll talk about assertiveness and setting them up to communicate them well in other videos. Yeah, I will see you guys on the next video, and we do this every damn day. So I'll see you tomorrow. Until then, stay awesome.